This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Andrew Paterson, Michael Remis with you, and we got a packed show. We're going to be talking curling. We're going to talk some speed skating, maybe a deep dive into the genesis on the PGA Tour yesterday. Oh, and a hockey game that happened yesterday as well. Heartbreak for Canada at the Olympics. Needless to say, the entire country kind of feels like we're in a bit of a state of mourning yesterday after an all-time classic game between Canada and the United States. And I have to say, an incredible performance by Team Canada. And for those of us here in Winnipeg, I don't think anyone's conflicted. We all knew that everyone wanted Canada to win. But our guy, Connor Hellebuyck, stealing the damn gold medal from Canada yesterday with the performance of his life. We're going to dive into all of it. Aftermath, look ahead, what this means for the NHL. And then, of course, the Jets are back at work, and they're on their way to Vancouver to resume their season. We'll see whether Helly's there. Kyle Connor, Josh Morrissey. We'll get to the Morrissey situation as well, who never played after the first period of game number one. But I, like many of you, still in a daze after just trying to come to terms with the loss yesterday in a game that seemed like Canada would be inevitable. And then they weren't, because of Connor Hellebuyck, who etched his name into American hockey history lore and certainly burned the narrative of all the doubters that said he couldn't win the big one. We'll dive into all of this. We will talk about the Olympics overall from a Canadian perspective, not necessarily just hockey. Jesse Capagado from CBC is going to join us later on in the program. Hammer, I was with Hammer yesterday, actually, to watch the game. We were both in sort of a state of shock right afterwards. Going to be it'll be fun to talk to Big J Geoff about something that he actually legitimately was a fan for, as opposed to the things that he covers. So Hammer's going to come on later on, and we will get maybe, I mean, not necessarily the American viewpoint on it. Dennis Bernstein's a great friend of the show, but we'll just talk about Hellebuyck's performance and where that puts him in the annals of U.S. hockey history. And then, kind of poke and prod and find out where we go from here as we get closer to the trade deadline in a couple of weeks. 5 games until the NHL trade deadline. And that is going to be a huge topic of conversation around Jet circles and certainly here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. So a busy, busy show. I'm sure all of you are right there with me in a state of depression after yesterday. I thought maybe 24 hours after the fact I'd be better. I'm not, and it's okay. It's okay. That was an incredible disappointment after a performance that is going to win you probably 9 times out of 10. Unfortunately, Hellebuyck was the 1 in the 10, and that's why the U.S. is celebrating right now. And Canada has silver medals. Just before we bring in Remo, a big shout out to everybody in the chat, and shout out to all you podcast listeners. It was an absolutely massive. I mean, the Olympics, I'll talk about this, Remo, in a minute. I'm sure he'll have a comment on it as well. But do want to thank all of our partners that make the show happen each and every day. Of course, our gang at Coolbet, the Winnipeg Jets, and we do have a March game of the month. We got 2 more this year. Thursday night against the Tampa Bay Lightning. I believe that's the 14th of March, if I'm not mistaken. And then the Saturday night game in April against the Philadelphia Flyers, which would be sort of a fun roundup, end up the season for all of our games. Go to winnipegjets.com/WST and grab those seats, and we'll look forward to seeing you there. Also want to thank, of course, our friends at the HSC Foundation and everyone that bid on the Aikens Lake trip on the weekend. They had a hugely successful gala, raised a ton of money, including everyone that bid on the fishing trip, and I'll look forward to heading out to Aikens Lake with our winners a little later on this year. I want to thank Princess Auto and Chud's Power Sports, Manitoba Battery, Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical. Of course, our friends at Aikens Lake, Manitoba Battery, St. Vital Dental Center, and Rowley's Transfer, Uptown Alley. Boston Pizza, the BPs were packed all across the city and province yesterday for the game. Royal Sports, of course, the gang over at Little Brown Jug. And we will get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. Remo, come on in. How are you holding up today, just over 24 hours after the great disappointment?
So I'm just responding to some comments in the chat. I'm pretty bummed about it. You know, we watched the game. It was incredible hockey, and I was very surprised. You know, going into the game, I thought it was really close, but on the play, it really wasn't close. Canada dominated and should have won. The game was there for the taking. You look at expected goals, you look at shots on goal, slot shots, rush chances, per Sport Logic. Canada led in all the categories. They just didn't lead in the category that mattered, goals. And you know, they had so many chances to go ahead. The Taves chance, that's the image. Or McKinnon missing the net, Celebrini, McDavid getting chances, on and on. Connor Hellebuyck stood on his head, and that's something that we've seen here for a long time. And I never doubted his ability to win a big game. We've seen him do it here in multiple Game 7s against Nashville, Game 7 against St. Louis, in playoff games last year at the Four Nations as well. He was excellent, but Binnington was a bit better. Unfortunately, this year it was the reverse, where Hellebuyck was better than Binnington. Hellebuyck was the best player on the ice. He won it for them. So I'm pretty disappointed for Canada. But having followed Hellebuyck's entire career pretty much, I think you're happy for him. It's cool to see him get such household name recognition now in the United States, but it's disappointing. And I think I've been saying this joke the last 24 hours. Like, it's going to be tough watching Jets games now with Hellebuyck and net, because you're going to be reminded of this loss over and over. It's going to be hard. So
yeah, it's not like a guy that's coming into your building once a year and like, oh yeah, that was the guy that stole the gold. No, he's our guy. And of course, it's in the midst of an incredibly disappointing season for the Winnipeg Jets that has resulted in nowhere near the success that I think the hopes were at the beginning of the season, after what they did last year, winning the President's Trophy, and Hellebuyck being the MVP of the whole damn league. How the Monday after the Super Bowl, we've often said, is like the most depressing day of the year. The Olympics pushed that back 2 weeks, because this feels like the most depressing day of the year. And that, especially with the loss. But the fact that the Olympics are over, I got to tell you, Reem, the last 2 weeks have been so much fun. I mean, the men's hockey tournament, kind of above all, was something that we'd been waiting for so long, and we got it, and it delivered. The most spectacular tournament we've ever seen. Probably the game played at the best level, the highest level it's ever been played. And the drama of the playoff round, I mean, the 3 overtime games in the quarters, I should say. Canada coming back to win in the fashion they did against the Finns in the semis, and then an epic final that didn't go our way. But I have to say, for WST, I'm also sort of disappointed that it's over. I mean, we had, I think, probably the 3 busiest days in the history of Winnipeg Sports Talk as we get closer to our 5th anniversary in a couple weeks. The live stream that we did with the watch along with the Coolbet guys on Monday or on Friday morning It's the most watched event we have ever done in our YouTube history. It's got over 35,000 views. And then even in a loss yesterday, Connor and Liss, with their always popular WST Sunday Live, went on. And obviously they had to deal with a lot of people in chat. But there's over 11,000 views on that one right now. So both from a personal level and how much I enjoyed the Olympic Games, the fact that the tourney's over, it didn't go our way, but also from a WST spot, I'm really disappointed that the Olympics are over because we had so many amazing shows and so many awesome things to talk about for the last couple of weeks from Italy.
Yeah, definitely a bit of a post-Olympic hangover. What am I going to put on TV tonight? There's no hockey. There's no, Olympic primetime with Anastasia and Craig McMorris, who were in my household like every night for the last 2 weeks. And yeah, Canada didn't win. And the worst part is I'm going to have to see this highlight of all those missed opportunities for pretty much forever now. You're going to see that Taves play like every 4 years, every time these teams play. I'm going to have to see the Kachucks go on every podcast with their gold medal. I think that's the worst part of the loss, that it's now etched in history. And yeah, as far as for Winnipeg Sports Talk, that watch-along Friday went better than I could have ever expected.
That was crazy.
Yeah, with 35,000 views here, people coming in to check it out. And Connor and Liss, even in a loss, a lot of activity on their stream. So it's definitely been fun. And now we have to gear up for Jets, Canucks, two teams well out of the playoffs Wednesday, with starting at 9 or 9:30. So it's going to be tough from going from absolute best on best to, bottom feeders in the NHL.
Hey, just to show you how locked in we are now back on the Jets, we've got Connor out in Vancouver for the game tomorrow. Mm-hmm. He'll join me. Remis is going to be away tomorrow. He'll join me there and be out at the game on Wednesday night. Doubt we'll have Connor at all of the games for the rest of the season, but he's going to be out there for this one on Wednesday. So I think really more tomorrow we'll kind of dive back into the Jets on a day-to-day basis. I mean, there's 5 games before the trade deadline. I would argue that, based on, where the team sits, this is an absolutely crucial 2 weeks. And more importantly, trade deadline for the club. I mean, they've given up a lot the last couple years that has not resulted in the success that they looked for. You have this incredibly disappointing season where hopes for the playoffs are, in my opinion, realistically done. There's a lot of work to be done to frankly not waste the best goaltender on the planet. And it's not going to be this year, but how this team looks on the whatever it is, the 9th of March, once things are done, what the general manager's done in regards to draft picks, younger players, who's been moved out. And then listen, I know it's not the March or April that, we wanted with the amount of games, at home and, not really being in a playoff race. But we're going to get a chance to see, I would imagine, a number of players that'll be auditioning for a bigger role next year. You may have some new players that join the organization. So there still will be lots to talk about. But just as far as the game goes yesterday, Reem, I know that when you lose, and I've already seen, I've been doing my best to just completely stay off social media for the last 26 hours. I mean, I just can't handle it. And I'm sure many of you are in the same way. But a couple of the things that have been sent to me before is, the natural when you don't win. Oh, they blew it picking the team. You need to have this guy, and this guy. I'm not really buying into any of that. I mean, sure, there's an argument for one guy here, one guy there. But, I mean, that game yesterday, I can't blame John Cooper for anything. I mean, I thought he had his team ready. I thought they played an absolutely phenomenal game. When it comes down to it, Hellebuyck stole a gold medal from Canada. And there are some guys, Nathan McKinnon, Devon Taves in particular. I mean, these are the two ones that will haunt us forever. But McDavid and Celebrini, I mean, all with glorious chances. They just couldn't beat Helly, who showed everyone why he won the MVP last year. I do wonder, and this is one thing that I did tweet out, like how long is it going to be before Nathan McKinnon or Devon Taves gets a good night's sleep? The save that Hellebuyck made on Taves, I mean, they may very well make that into a postage stamp or something south of the border, and frankly, he deserves it. The most incredible, important, big-time clutch save ever. I mean, when it comes to the stakes of a one-game gold medal final with everything that went into that game. And McKinnon, listen, I know McKinnon's getting killed on that quote of his afterwards, you tell me who is the better team. I mean, it was part of a larger quote where he gave them credit, but I agree. I mean, they played an absolutely phenomenal game. So I'm not going to nitpick on who was on the team or who wasn't on the team. They were good enough to do it. At some point, you just had to tip your cap to an all-time incredible performance, and it was Connor Hellebuyck's. But I mean, like when Colorado comes to town, Taves and McKinnon are going to take a look at the guy across the net, assuming that Hellebuyck is playing, and probably get a pit in their stomach once again, thinking about missed opportunities from yesterday.
Yeah, and the Nathan McKinnon's face when they hand him the stuffed animal as the silver medal was incredible.
Tough.
You saw the disgust. He knows he missed chances, their chance to be a hero, and yeah, I think you could second guess some of the moves, but you can't second guess that game. We all watched it from this. The first shift, USA took it to Canada. I was like, oh man, this is going to be tough. But second, third period, Canada went wave after wave, shot after shot. Celebrini shots in the slot. McKinnon, maybe a bit too reliant on the one line, but that doesn't mean they didn't have chance after chance to win. Didn't mean they didn't, have more opportunities. And I didn't think US really had a ton. They relied a lot on Connor Hellebuyck, and credit to them. And they won, and I don't know if 3-on-3 cheapens the gold medal for you, but that's what the rule is, 3-on-3. And Canada maybe went a bit in hero mode where a couple guys trying to dangle through the whole team instead of trying to set up and get some possession. But that was the way it went, and USA took advantage. So I mean, as far as the game went for Canada, it wasn't like they got outplayed. I think we had some concerns. Oh, how is Canada gonna penetrate this U.S. defense? Look how amazing it is. Jacob Slavin, Quinn Hughes, Zach Werenski, so many great players. They had no problem at all. And again, they got goalied. Hellebuyck stole the game. It does happen from time to time. We saw it in '98 with Dominic Hasek against Canada. And Canada's had a nice run here, 2002, 2014, Four Nations, nice run over USA. And the last couple of games have been so tight. I guess you could say it was due to flip in USA's direction, but very unfortunate. I mean, we're going to see, maybe we'll see these replays because IOC has got a stranglehold on all the footage, and this is the first time ever that I'm actually happy that we may not. Although
we never have to see these again.
Yeah, although the still photos, are tough, but yeah.
Well, and listen, the still photos. I know Nick's in the chat right now. I didn't see it. I didn't go on, but I'm sure it was out there. I mean, the McKinnon open net opportunity in yesterday's game is the Canadian version of the Mason Appleton open net in Game 6 last year against the Dallas Stars. I mean, like, what Jet fan didn't think the exact same thing when you saw how that worked? And listen, all due respect to Mason Appleton. I know many of you guys were on him last year. I thought he did his job for the Jets and was an important player that contributed all that. But I mean, Nathan McKinnon is a superstar in this league. An MVP, a Stanley Cup winner, a guy that is right there with McDavid as one of the best in the world. And I don't know how he ever gets over that missed opportunity yesterday. So, but and just to your point on the 3-on-3 Reem, we could talk about 3-on-3. It should never have gotten to 3-on-3. And again, that is Hellebuyck. So I'm gutted for Team Canada. I'm gutted for all of us that were so invested in it. But I will say this, I'm incredibly happy for Hellebuyck. If it was going to go down in any way that resulted in Canada not getting a gold medal, I'm pretty happy for him that he gets the accolades. I mean, I think back to Game 7 against the Blues last year, and the way we remember that game, it's the Perfetti goal game. Like, it takes a lot to overshadow a double overtime game winner in Game 7, which is what Adam Lowry had. And yet, the way that they tied the game up was so spectacular. We think of that as the Perfetti 1.6 seconds game. Do you know how hard it is to overshadow a golden goal, an Olympic gold medal overtime winning goal, which is what Jack Hughes had? And Jack Hughes will be an American hero, and he's got the picture with the chipped tooth and everything. It's all good. Anyone that watched that game yesterday that thinks back, oh my God, remember when the U.S. won the gold medal? They'll think of one guy, and it's Connor Hellebuyck, and he's the reason that the USA won the gold medal. So congratulations to Helly. A really kind of downer tournament for Josh Morrissey. He didn't get in. We've got a report from Drager that he's going to miss time. Not surprising. If he couldn't go in Game 7, if he couldn't go in the gold medal game, highly doubt that he'll be playing. And what's the rush? I mean, based on the situation right now with Josh. And then, of course, Kyle Connor's story, which ended up with a party, and he'll be going home with the team, but pretty tough for him to be in the press box for all the medal round games after just playing the first couple. We don't need to hear from Jack Hughes, but Remo, you got that bit from Helly. Here's what Hellebuyck had to say after he was feeling putting his team on his back and stealing a gold medal.
Feel incredible. It's a lot of critics around my game the last couple of years, and all I can continue to do is go and perform and play my game, and hope that what I do is enough, and this kind of proves it.
To that point, looked like a career-defining game for you. How would you describe how you played today?
I just think it was another night. A typical game for me. With the guys, they played so good in front of me. I mean, they let me see everything. And, a couple big saves, but also a couple real nice blocks, and this is a team effort.
So you talk about the critics. It's your job to kind of shut that out and not let it get to you, but clearly it's something that you hear. How much has that been fuel for you for a moment like this?
Oh yeah, it doesn't get to me, but it's just annoying because they don't understand the game like I do, and especially my own games. I love what I'm putting on the ice, and this is what I love. This is what I enjoy. So, this was a good stepping stone for me, and bringing back the fun in the game.
How about that save on Taves? That stick save was so close.
Pretty nice, huh?
It was really nice. What did you see?
You saw it. You don't need my opinion of it. You saw it. It was nice. It was, one of those moments.
Reem, I don't even know how to feel about that because, listen, it's still cloaked in the disappointment of not winning the gold medal. But, I've always said he's my favorite guy to listen to. He's a little weird. He's a little quirky. He's the best that there is and has been the backbone of the Winnipeg Jets' success over the number of years. And, it was a quintessential Hellebuyck interview even after winning the gold medal in probably the greatest moment in the greatest game of his life.
Yeah, 100%. Career defining game. If you didn't think Connor Hellebuyck was a Hall of Fame goalie coming into this, he certainly punched his ticket there with the multiple Vezinas, Hart Trophy. Nice to see him get some recognition here nationally. The United States, he's become a household name for sure. How many casual fans tune in to the game? So, that was a classic. Putting your Team Canada fan hat aside, that was a classic Hellebuyck interview where, he doesn't want to say like, oh, that was, an amazing save and take him. He's like, you saw it. We all saw what it was. The move speaks for itself. And how many people have watched that Devon Taves in the slot play so many times? We're just,
I'll never get over
reaching
that.
Back.
I will never get over that. And you know what? I think of where, I was at a bar with a whole bunch of friends, as so many of you guys did. The city was rocking early. And that happened. And everyone stood up. That was a goal. And then it wasn't. And I saw some reactions on like the news last night of seeing some watch parties. There was literally probably 20 million Canadians at the time saying the exact same thing. How the hell did that not go in? Like, you needed to have another replay to see it again. So anyways, that was, we're going to get into more of it. Hammer's going to jump on. Dennis Bernstein is going to join us in just a couple of minutes. We'll hear from a couple of the Team Canada players later on, but it was Hellebuyck's day. And that was an all-timer from Connor. Listen, just before we bring in Dennis Bernstein, folks, you still got some time to get those tickets for the St. B Mega Million Choices Lottery. Early bird deadline is next Thursday, or Thursday, March the 5th. That is next Thursday, midnight. And if you get your tickets before then, you'll be in for over $280,000 worth of early bird prizes, including your choice of a couple of incredible vehicles, the 2026 Silverado Chevy EV Trail Boss, which is valued at $115K, or the Ford F-150 Lightning Platinum at $117K. Or you can take a $100,000 fairconnect.com travel voucher and $20,000 cash, or $100,000 cash tax-free. There's also going to be 25 winners of either an Apple iPhone 17 Pro, Samsung Galaxy, or $1,000 cash. And of course, everyone's in for the grand prizes, which will be your choice of one of five $1.5 million dream home packages, or $1.25 million cash tax-free. How does that sound? You can be Manitoba's next millionaire with the St. B Mega Million Choices Lottery, all in support of the St. Boniface Hospital and their research. St. B Mega Million Choices.ca is where you go to get your tickets. You can also pop by your local London Drugs or Red River Co-op location to grab them. Again, the website, stbmegamillionchoices.ca. Get them before Thursday, March 5th, and make sure you're in for all those incredible early bird prizes. Our buddy Shitzy went by and popped into Uptown Alley. I think a lot of people will just need to get away from hockey, maybe go and have a little fun. No better place to do that than Uptown Alley at 1301 St. Matthews Avenue. 5-pin bowling, 10-pin bowling, laser tag, state-of-the-art arcade, and amazing food. I know he was trying the bao buns yesterday. Said they were phenomenal. Food and beverage there is incredible. And of course, the best place for birthday parties for kids, teens, or adults. An amazing group and corporate events. You just let them know what you're planning on doing, what you want to eat, any add-ons, and their event staff will take care of all the rest. For more information on planning an event at Uptown Alley, give them a call, 488-0000, or head online to uptownalley.ca. or pop by today at 1301 St. Matthews Avenue. Also want to thank Rolly's Transfer for their support of WST. If you got a move coming up, lean on the experts. 60-plus years in the business. Family-owned and operated, is the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. Head on over to Rolly's Transfer, Rollies.com, I should say. Click on Request an Estimate. Use that promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies, and let them know when and where you're planning on moving and what needs to be moved. And they'll turn it around with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove treatment that has made them the most trusted name in the game, now into their 7th decade. For all your moving needs, make it Rollies. Find out more today online over at Rollies.com. And, well, listen, not a lot of smiles in the last 24 hours by Canadian hockey fans, but they will return. If you need to get that smile worked on, head on over and see our boy Dr. Terry and the great people at St. Vital Dental Center, 167 St. Anne's. Beautiful new facility, convenient free parking right behind the building, and a full array of dental services for patients from 6 months to 99 plus, with cleanings and checkups all the way to surgeries like dental implants. They do it all like they've been doing for generations of Winnipeggers before. If you're looking for a new long-term home for you and your family, for all your dental needs, make it St. Vital Dental Center. stvitaldental.ca is where you're going to want to make an appointment, and make sure you say hi to Dr. Terry for the boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk. All right, south of the border we go. Let's welcome in our guy, Dennis Bernstein, from the fourth period. DB's smiling right now. Dennis, congratulations. What a tournament. What a game. What a heartbreak for Canada. And an Olympic hero was made yesterday in Winnipeg Jet goaltender Connor Hellebuyck. How are you?
Well, kudos for you for putting an American on your show today. I was shocked to get the call from
We own
Remo.
it. We own it.
Wow, talking about Beto Sweden in Winnipeg today. A guy who's never get enough credit for being a great goaltender finally gets it against your team. Here's the thing, Hustler. The margins are gone. If Barkov played for Finland, they could have won they could have won the gold. They could have. Like there's nothing. And I know that Nathan McKinnon, who's the better team. Do you know how many minutes they led for in the knockout stage? 6 minutes, Canada. So they're not that, okay, great. You want to hang the advanced stats spreadsheet on the wall, which are silver medal. That's great. They did nothing at 5-on-5, Hustler. 5-on-3 with those 5 guys out there, you don't score? Okay. But the better team won because they hung around. They had the better goaltender without question. I don't care about tilting the ice or anything like that because this team never took a lead and all. They could have got knocked out in the quarterfinals. So I'll dispute the fact that they were the better team that lost. They just never proved it on the ice.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought they proved it for 60 minutes. They were skating circles around them, and they were,
But they never scored. They never scored through the entire tournament.
Well, this is the thing. Here, listen, Dennis, what are we saying right now if Devon Taves scores from 6 inches?
Yeah.
And, listen, that was the most larcenous save I've ever seen in the biggest stage. And then McKinnon, we'll talk about McKinnon, and I think – obviously people grabbed that part of his quote. The bigger quote was giving them a lot of credit and basically saying what you said. It was really, really tight. But listen, you open up and you say that, you're going to hear about it, and he did.
Yeah.
If he buries that one, which he does 95 times out of 100, we basically look and go, wow, that game was way closer than it should have been because Hellebuyck was brilliant. Because the bottom line was the U.S. in the second and third period did not do much. But they survived. So, I still
But that was true for the other 2 games, Hustler. They didn't blow anybody out. They were life and death in every game. So I got a question.
For sure. I'm just speaking about the
5-on-5.
gold medal game itself.
Okay.
Listen, that was an all-time performance by Connor Hellebuyck. And, let me ask you this about Helly.
Yeah.
Because, going into this tournament, okay, well, you've got Ottinger, you've got Swayman. He hadn't had a great season. The Jets have had a brutal season based on their expectations. How much has this performance from Hellebuyck, throughout the tourney, and then obviously when it counted the most in the gold medal, what has that done for his I guess the perception of Hellebuyck amongst the best in the world, and more so from American hockey fans who maybe went into this tournament going, well, is he really our best option?
It changes everything, Hustler. It has to, right? And I even said it. Based on the numbers, Swayman should have been the number 1 guy, but he can't stop a puck from center ice. I don't care about the board. Hellebuyck would have stopped that shot, right? No, it puts Hellebuyck where he was a year ago. MVP Vezina. So Hustler, here's the thing. This season's the anomaly, right? It has to be, right? And then when push came to shove, and he beat the same guy who beat him in Boston last year, all right? So add on top of that. So when you look at the season for Hellebuyck and the Jets, you say, okay, it's an anomaly. He's still the best goaltender in the league. He won it in the biggest spot, made the biggest saves. So throw out the season. If you had to start and look at Bobrovsky this season. He hasn't been anything. They're talking about maybe trading him at the deadline. So I think he reclaims all the currency that he lost this season. And you can say, okay, then it's not on him. It's on the team. It's on Winnipeg. They haven't played as good in front of him. But I just think it reclaims a lot of currency that he lost this season. And I guess, which was kind of misdirected.
Not that this wasn't here in the market already. But I would say beyond Winnipeg, when people look and go, wait a second, what is up with this team? You've got this guy doing what he did,
right,
coming off of an MVP season. I think this puts the spotlight and the pressure on Kevin Cheveldayoff in a massive, massive way, in that this season is what it is, but we're going to be talking about 2 weeks leading up to that trade deadline and then the NHL offseason on his shoulders to find a way to reverse everything that happened this year and put a team in front of the best goaltender in the world that is capable of taking advantage of having the best goaltender in the world and making things happen when it counts. And in the NHL, that's in the spring in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah, and this is going to happen in the offseason, right, Hustle? I mean, they're going to make small moves, like what happens with Logan Stanley. You might trade kind of Pearson, whatever. That's going to be the substance of what's going to happen in the trade. But you're right. Now you have to find a middle six that's going to work. Like Jonathan Taves isn't the answer to the 3C, right? We know that, okay? It's a great story. I'm glad he played. I'm glad he came back. I think it was great for the fans to see. But you're right. Like now, also, if you have a goaltender, like look at Buffalo. What happened with Buffalo this season? Oh, they got saves. Oh, now they're a good team. You have the guy to make the saves. You have a top first line. And I still keep saying, I know people don't like Scheifele for some reason, but he should have been on the team, right? So your top line is there. And Kyle Connor, whatever it is, in Olympic in international competition, it doesn't happen for him. That top line's legit. So you're right. All the pressure's on Chevy to get the middle six. That's the whole thing. This team can't score with that top line. What does that tell you? The middle six is ineffective. Like Gus Nyquist, still waiting. Hustler, when? I got as many goals. So that's the key. What's Chevy going to do? Because you're right. There is the pressure shifts. You're 100% right, Hustler. Because of what Hellebuyck did here in the Olympics, it shifts a massive amount of pressure too, because you got a top line and a goaltender. And, well, if Morrissey played, maybe Canada wins as well. Like, you've got enough components to be not this bad, so what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, we are where we are with this season. I think most people are sort of at peace with, understanding what the situation is.
No,
and, I mean, to be honest, it will be fascinating to see how the team handles this, like, from a management position.
Sure.
Like Darren Drager reported, and we'll get this. I think we've got the clip. That Morrissey's missing time when he comes back, and you would think that. I mean, if he couldn't go in the playoffs of the Olympic Games and the medal games, I mean, there's obviously something more to it. They haven't told us what it is, but he's probably going to be out. There's no, like in the certain situation, there's certainly no hurry to rush Josh Morrissey back into the lineup. I would argue that outside of Hellebuyck, he, like, with all due respect to Scheifele and Connor and everybody up front, Morrissey, like, the difference between the Jets with Morrissey and without Morrissey is the greatest. I mean, he plays the most. He carries the biggest burden on this team.
There's no replacement player for him.
Not even close. Right. So, that probably diminishes your chance of winning on a night-in-night-out basis. I mean, you move out some of these guys. You look at some of these Moose players that, might have earned an opportunity to see if they can be in the mix moving forward. But then you look at some of the other players. I mean, like Hellebuyck. It wouldn't surprise me if at some point he tweaked something and, we maybe get a run of Eric Comrie or seeing the young guys from the Moose, whether they're ready to go. Because, I mean, unfortunately, we're going to be doing a lot more draft simming than draft lottery simming than looking at potential first-round matchups for the playoffs. But let's get to the deadline right now, because coming out of the Olympic Games, we've got games on Wednesday, and then there's, 9 days until the trade deadline. 5 games for the Winnipeg Jets and the majority of the teams in the league. Where are the hot spots right now? What are you hearing? I mean, you mentioned, let's start with the Panthers right now, because I personally think the Panthers are done. They had the most players in the Olympic Games.
Yep.
I mean, Tkachuk's going to be back on another Stanley Cup style celebration right now. I think they realize where they're at right now.
Yeah, they're in Miami partying.
It was surprising to hear on the weekend that Bob might be available. And let's face it, while we're talking about the Jets having an aberration year, no team can claim that more than the Panthers, losing Barkov, potentially missing after winning back-to-back cups. There's probably some draft capital that they would love to reclaim as well. Start off with the Panthers and this Bobrovsky news and what you think this team might do over the course of the next 2 weeks, knowing that their playoff odds are a long shot as well.
Yeah, they're cooked. So if you watch them play, they're cooked. They're too banged up. Barkov's not there. I think Bob's got an 871 save percentage. So if you trade for him, buyer beware. They're going to give him a first-round pick for this guy. And where's he going to go to? Edmonton can't fit him in. There's no way. And I think it sends the wrong signal. I think that, look, if Zito's aggressive, right? So if there's one guy that's going to make moves like that, it's Bill Zito, because that's what he need to win 2 Stanley Cups. But, like, who are you going to trade him to? Look, here's the thing. 3 Cup final appearances in a row. You won twice. It's not your year. It's okay. Retrench, regroup. And what's going on with Marchand? Marchand didn't play a lot in the Olympics, and maybe he's banged up as well. Like, if there's opportunities to be made, but who would you move off this team? Like, I look, if you could get a first-round pick for Bob, would you do it? Sure you would. And he'd come back in the summertime and saw him back in Florida. That's my understanding. That he's not going to get 11 million, whatever he's getting, 5 million for 1 year, 2 years, whatever, right? But I don't think they're a different look. They should be, because it's not the points, Hustler. It's the climb. They got to climb over 6 teams to get to the Cup, to playoffs. And if you watch Bob play this season, you understand why his save percentage is 871. He's out of position all the time. He's off his line all the time. It's a bad season for him. It happens, and he's hot and cold. He's had bad seasons before. So I don't think they're not the key team. I think the key team is probably still Calgary, because what happens with Blake Coleman? What happens with Naz Kadri? I know he's got term left. Like, that's the team that I kind of look at to say, okay, maybe that's the team that if you trade 2 of those players, like, they can make differences to a Dallas or a Colorado. I think that's one of the teams. And what does Buffalo do? That's the most intriguing team. Can they add another? Like, I'll give you another team, like Chicago, like Jason Dickinson. Like, McLeod's been really good there, but if you put Norris with Thompson up top, you don't really have a 3C there. So you could make a move like that. So I think that I don't think that Zito will be aggressive. I think you just got to take the blows of a regression that you knew was going to probably happen after the great run they've had.
Yeah, Buffalo's fascinating to me, and to be honest, I mean, I think it is just so important that they get to the playoffs and, end that streak. Here's the thing about Josh Norris. Is there a less reliable player in the NHL that he'll be able to be in good to go? I mean, I would almost be really aggressive at that position, even with him there, knowing that, more often than not, he's been hurt and not able to play. Now, fair or unfair, that's just the way that it is.
Yeah, it's a reality of the player. Yeah.
And then, like when we look at the East right now, I mean, and I know Gary Bettman loves everyone to say, well, you're only 8 points back. You're only 9 points back. I mean, realistically, when you look at that wild card, like, I've already announced that the Panthers are done.
Yeah.
I think Philly's done.
Yeah.
I think the Leafs are done. I think the Sens are done.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the Caps maybe, but I mean, there's 65 points and they've played 2 extra games. So I don't like their chances. To me, there's basically 9 teams for 8 spots right now. The teams that are in it, and then this upstart Columbus team. And listen, that Olympic break could not have come at a worse time for the Columbus Blue Jackets. I mean,
9-1.
What are they?
7
What are they?
straight.
11-1 under Bones?
Yeah, they've lost 1 game, and Charlie Coyle's blown. Charlie got 13 points in his last 10 games. Hustler, Charlie Coyle. He's a 3C on championship team. I think the question is, like, who can pass Boston? I think Buffalo's more legit than Boston. But at the top, Victor Hedman didn't play in the elimination game. So if he's hurt significantly, then it's wide open. Like, I would say Carolina, but Hustler, did anybody trust Carolina in a conference final?
Would you take Carolina against the Lightning right now? I wouldn't.
No. Unless they make a trade for a 2C, unless they bring back Vinny Jokic. Vinny Jokic could be the pivot guy in the East and in the West, because I love the 3 teams at the top of the Central, but Ryan Hartman is in the 2C. Like, they got to go get Trocheck, and they go get Trocheck the way Colorado played into the break. Remember, I said it on the show, I'm sure, early in the season. There's 1 team in 31 teams, Colorado and everybody else. Not anymore. Hustle, you see them into the break? They were 4-5-1. They got questions, and all their guys played in the Olympics. If Gary can pull off getting a 2C, they might have a shot. I think they'd beat Dallas. I don't trust Dallas, even though Dallas has won 6 straight coming into the break. Trocheck could be a real pivotal player in either conference race, because he's a 2C that you could trust in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, the Central is just crazy right now with Dallas, and I do wonder about Colorado, not necessarily about, who they might add or what they might do at the deadline, but what that game yesterday might do. I mean, like I joked earlier, or not even joking, I'm seriously, when's the next time Devon Taves or Nate McKinnon are going to get a good night's sleep?
Yeah.
I mean, after those two.
And McCarr's back check wasn't great on that play either, to be honest with you. And if they play too much hockey, right? And does that linger, right, mentally? Right now, you're going to jump back in. And Hustler, we talk like this is a season like no other because of the Olympics. But remember the condensed schedule coming in. Have you looked at the schedule coming out for these teams? Like the Kings played 3 games in 4 nights to start on Wednesday, and they got Vegas. I think they got Vegas, Edmonton, and Colorado. This is crazy, and it's attrition all over. Like Pittsburgh, what's going on with Sid? They're the 2 seed, and they got home ice advantage right now. Like, what do you? I remember that image when it cut to Duba sitting in the suite for Hockey Canada when he got hurt. I'm like, what's this guy thinking right now? So it could really be, if Colorado is not going to be that dominant team, it's wide open. You can have 7 or 8 teams winning the Stanley Cup this season.
I'm telling you right now, Buffalo, like I'm buying Buffalo.
I know. They got saves. They made saves.
And well, I mean, I'm just thinking about their division. Like, listen, I'm giving Tampa the Atlantic right now. But I mean, Buffalo, as we go into action, they're 2 points back of the Red Wings with a game in hand and the tiebreaker.
Who hasn't made the playoffs in a decade.
Montreal, I mean, they're
nice
right
story.
behind them. And then the Habs are an exciting team. They're 2 points up on Buffalo right now as well. Like I could see Buffalo having a home ice in the first round.
Buffalo's got a better goal differential than Montreal. Montreal's 32, 17, and 8, and they're 12 plus 12 goal differential. They've won every close game, and they're not great at home. Yeah, you're right, Bossler. It could happen. It could happen. Could Buffalo beat? Like what? I think Buffalo need to do though. I don't think Buffalo could beat Carolina. I think that would be a little bit of a challenge for them. But if they get to the 3 seed, absolutely. And you do trust. It's who do you trust, Kostler? I trust one team in the East, the team at the top, Tampa. But if Hedman's hurt and it's significant, I can't trust them. Everybody else, and what's going on with Point. But the rest, you're right. The rest of the conference is wide open right now, which is great to see, I think.
Hey, before we go, let me ask about the team you cover most closely, the LA Kings. Horrible injury to Kevin Fiala at the Olympics, and I think everyone felt terrible for him.
Yeah, and I know Kev.
They're on the outside looking in. What do you expect the Kings to do? Are they active in the next couple of weeks before the deadline? And what do you make of their chances to be there in the postseason again?
Okay, the chances are a coin flip. It's 50-50, right? Because the euphoria that they had here for 5 days when they got Panarin ended when Tom Wilson fell on Kevin Fiala's leg. So the offense will increase incrementally. Now, the power play should be better with Panarin. They're moving Byfield out of center to left wing, which when you look at their center ice next season, they don't have a center if he's playing left wing. They don't. Kopitar's retiring. Like your number one center would be Alex Turcotte. They'll have $15 million projected cap space. They have to make a move for offense. So what does that mean? I would go after Marchessault at like 50% retention. Like second, maybe third round pick. He's a first shoot guy to help the power play. But a key guy might be a guy like Kuzmenko, who came in last season, galvanized the power play, switched on offense. He's starting to score some goals. It's still a toss-up also because they lost so many one-goal games here. The offense has been so bad. You thought it would improve when Panarin came in, but Fiala's injury offsets that. But I can't think that Kenny would fit that much. Kenny Holland's not going to sit there with $50 million in cap space at the deadline and not make a move. He's got to make a move for a scoring winger. I think it will be Marchessault. You got some other options. Blake Holland. Here's the thing. There's not a lot of scoring wingers, Hustler. So the only other way to get to the playoffs is to reinforce your middle six. So Blake Coleman might make sense. I mentioned Jason Dickinson. That could be an opportunity as well. So if you can't go get the scoring wing, you've got to add something here. I think a guy like Dickinson, because they're face-off guys, you've got Alex Laferriere as your first-line center right now. He's a winger. His face-off percentage is 41%. You need something better for the playoffs. So to answer your question, scoring winger would be first priority, but you got to make a move to fortify the forward wall if you're Kenny sitting with that much cap space.
Yeah, and I think they owe it. I mean, like, I know you say it's 50-50, and some teams would be like, well, we'll just see what happens. But with it being Kopitar's final year, Would be a real shame if that career ended in game 82 over the
and you
regular
added
season.
Panarin, like he's going to say Panarin. Now
sure.
I'm going to stand pat. One of our offensive guys goes out. You can't do. I'm shocked if Kenny would do that. I don't think it's a big. I think the bigger move would come in the offseason, like a Robert Thomas or maybe even Elias Paterson. I don't think that happens at the deadline, but I do think they have to add another winger here or just an offensive player.
Dennis, congrats again, buddy. Thanks so much for doing this. We will chat coming up maybe next week as we get closer to the deadline. Always appreciate you jumping on, and keep up the great work with Dave and the gang over at the fourth period.
Yeah, I didn't bring on the fly after work, but it's always great being on WST Hustle. We'll talk to you next week.
Appreciate you doing that. There's Dennis Bernstein. We'll have more on this coming up with the Hammer. We'll get in and we'll have that quote from Drager with the latest on Josh Morrissey. But just before this, let's get back to, we played Hellebuyck, and he was the one guy with the massive smile on his face. The Team Canada side of things was a little bit different. Nathan McKinnon spoke after the game, and obviously a little shell shock from what had taken place, but here's what he had to say on if there was anything that they could have done differently.
Just finishing. That's it. The looks we had, we would have taken any day. I missed an open net myself, and I really wish I could have that one back. What a great group of guys, and we definitely really tilted that game. But we just had to score, and we couldn't score.
3-on-3 is always, there's risk reward, right? You want to be aggressive, but there's sort of strategy involved. Maybe just take us through what you think happened on the winner.
I don't know. I jumped on the ice and I started back checking. I don't really know, to be honest.
I feel like you guys, you had a lot of momentum in that game, big kills, lots of chances. You feel like that your team put about as much out there as you can?
Yeah, the PK was great. The 5-on-3 hurt, and in the last power play we had so many good looks in the slot, rebounds. I don't know. It just felt like it wasn't meant to be tonight for us.
Sport is about celebration and disappointment. How do you process these disappointing moments?
It's reality. Can't fight reality. Just sad. Just disappointed. I don't know. It just sucks. Like I said, it's a lot bigger than your club team. It's your country, and it's every 4 years. So it's going to be a long time before we get to try to win this one back, and it'll be a completely different team too. So it just sucks.
All right. It's interesting, Reem, that, McKinnon said that. And maybe it's just that, you've been at the Olympic Games for the 2 weeks and it's all led up to that moment. But I did find it interesting that he said it's bigger than your club team and it's every 4 years. I almost took that as that is more important than winning the Stanley Cup, which from a guy that won the Stanley Cup is surprising. And certainly I think if you polled most NHL players, they would say that the Stanley Cup is the ultimate goal. Let me put this out to the chat because I saw some of you guys talking about this beforehand. And Remo, maybe I would like to, if you could make this a poll. Why not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray? As a fan, I'm assuming you guys are Winnipeg Jet fans that are watching this program. Would you rather have the Jets win the Stanley Cup or Canada be the Olympic champions? Best on best. Like this. Jets win a cup versus Canada win the gold medal. That's an easy question for me. It would be the Jets winning the cup. To me, and listen, that's not to diminish how upset and bummed out that I am, and I think so many of us are today. But, to me, being the best out of 32, knowing how hard it is to win, knowing how rare it is to win, and what it would mean for all of us here in the city and the organization and the community. To me, that's actually sort of an easy question. But I am interested as to whether many of you are like, no way, I'm on the other side. Where are you at on that?
Yeah, I love Olympics. I love Team Canada. I love best on best. It's incredible hockey. But, Winnipeg Jets Stanley Cup, that's something where you're living and dying with the team for 82 games or for, how many years you've been watching them. And, Canada is kind of the favorite. We've seen it. So Winnipeg Jets Stanley Cup for Winnipeg, I think, will be made. It's so many more games, a journey. That being said, if I can understand Nathan McKinnon, he was saying, hey, it's different than your club team. You're playing, best on best. These guys are such elite athletes, so competitive. They want to be the best of the best. They have that drive. And when you're in this type of competition, they want to rise up and, be the best player. And unfortunately for Nathan McKinnon, it didn't work out for him yesterday. And, we've all seen the golden goal. All these guys grew up with Crosby scoring. And how often does that come out? How often does that, how much does that make you immediate legend status? And I think maybe they got it in their heads in overtime saying, hey, I want to be the guy who scores the winner. And unfortunately, it didn't work out for them. And we'll have to see, every 4 years now, the highlights of this Jack Hughes goal and screenshots of the Devon Taves save. It's been rough months for Canada. Between the IKF slide and, whatever moment you want to say from yesterday. I saw Bar Down put out this tweet just like shoving it at, like, I know I'm the one who likes to bring up like Game 5, like Kevin Hayes pulling out of the net or Trouba and stuff like that. But this is Bar Down us. Like, how I couldn't even look at this. Missed chances. What was Canada's biggest missed chance? And then showing pictures of the breakaways, of the guys in the penalty box, of McKinnon. Like, this was so painful. They tweeted this out like midnight last. I was like, I did not want to see this graphic.
This is why I went dark on social media.
Yeah, well, I don't blame you.
I can't handle this. I cannot handle it today.
Yeah, I'm glad the NHL. I don't think I could go back to watching hockey for a couple days here. Need to process this as they're going to have that USA party today in Miami. They're going to the White House, doing the victory laps. It's tough. Should have been Canada. Should have been Celebrini, scoring the winner or whoever. Like, would have been nice for someone. You had a nice goal from Makar, but no goals from a forward yesterday. You had the Tom Wilson chance stopped by McAvoy, like right on the goal line, like chance after chance. So I think there's a lot of disappointment, more so than anger, because the game was there for the taking and they just couldn't grab it.
Yeah, no, it certainly was. Here's what, just back to the question, and just early on, about 85% are on Jets to win the Stanley Cup. One guy that I'm pretty sure, as disappointed as he is today, that will take the Stanley Cup over the Olympic gold medal is Connor McDavid. And, he'll take them all. He wants to win them all. And when you're the best player on the planet, you're sort of expected to be the guy that leads your team to win them all. And they've come real close in the NHL the last couple seasons, and he came real close yesterday. But it's another silver and a little more ammo for Tkachuk to talk about being the bridesmaid. Here's what McDavid had to say about the winner.
Yeah, disappointed, obviously. Kind of a scramble play, I thought. But just disappointed, obviously.
Back and forth game. You guys carried a whole bunch of the play there. You feel like you guys could have put much better of a game out there?
I thought we played a great game. I thought their goalie played really, really well.
How do you process these moments?
Just move on, onward.
Big picture. I know this team, you guys, a lot of you were at the Four Nations together. You were a really tight group here. I know it's early here, Connor, but what do you think about this whole experience here?
It was a good experience, obviously. Disappointing end, obviously, but it was a hard fought to get to this point, and proud of the guys to get to this point.
All right, there's a disappointed Connor McDavid. And you know what? I will say this, and to some old school Jet fans, Remo, no one wants to see this, proceeds to show it on the show. Winnipeg salt in the wound talk. Hey, listen, what are we going to do? Not talk about it today, T-Will, but I'm with you. That was a lot. But as far as McDavid goes and the Oilers, like, I grew up having my childhood ruined by the Edmonton Oilers. I have always cheered against the Edmonton Oilers for the most part. I mean, maybe less so over the last 20 years because, they had the decade of darkness and all of that. But then, there was the envy that they somehow get the number 1 pick again and get Connor McDavid. And I've said many times on this program, I am not one in the past that has bought into this, like every year, in the playoffs, we get all these commercials and people trying to say, oh, this is Canada's team. And, we need a Canadian team to win the cup. I've always been steadfast. I don't care. I hate most of the other Canadian teams. And I want the Jets to be the team that ended the drought. I can officially say I'm changing my position on this. After being at the Four Nations and what we went through in the win, and then watching that game yesterday and what we're dealing with, if you even dare to dip your feet into the waters on social media, I'm done with it. And I will proclaim today on this program that if it is the Oilers, who I think, even though they've been pretty mid this season with the guys on their roster and McDavid and Draisaitl, they have the best chance to win. Even the Canadians, who I have hated my entire life, and obviously are the last team to win the cup in 1993. Even if it was Montreal, I will support those teams. I am sick and tired of the negative, of the narrative about it. And with what happened yesterday, that is only going to crank that up. So consider me walking back a take that I have held for 15 years on this program. And even before then, since the Jets came back, I want a Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup, and I think yesterday just officially put me into that category. I know many of you were already there. Many of you maybe were with me beforehand, thinking that it's more about your own team winning. It doesn't matter. There's tons of Canadians on all the rosters, which is absolutely a fact. But we move forward. We move forward that way. All right, we're gonna get Hammer on in a minute to chop this up. I want to thank Princess Auto for their great support of WST. And, we've been talking a lot about Canada. When we're talking about Winnipeg, we think of Princess Auto, founded and headquartered right here. And now coast to coast serving Canadians with the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is waiting for you at Princess Auto. So pop by and see them in store today. Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, out in Brandon for you folks in Westman. And you can always shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. Also want to thank our friends at Cleanline Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical for their support of WST. It's back to work for the Jets. So tomorrow, as the team practices and heads out to Vancouver, we'll resume checking out what the Cleanline lines for the Winnipeg Jets will be. Of course, we probably will be without Josh Morrissey. We'll see if Kyle Connor's back in time for that game on Wednesday night. Who else is there? And obviously, there were some call-ups from the Manitoba Moose over the course of the break. Who's still with us? So when we do the lines with the Winnipeg Jets and throughout the Olympics, it's always for Cleanline Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical. Your leaders in Winnipeg residential and commercial plumbing, heating, and electrical services. Your one-stop shop with over 40 years of experience and 24/7 emergency services. When you're in a bind, Cleanline is there for you. Mark down the number 204-500-2001. Cleanline, the official plumbing service of the Winnipeg Jets. Also want to shout out Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery. Hopefully this snow will be gone for a bit and, not too long. But we do have some teeth left in this Manitoba winter. If you need a battery test to see if you're going to get through it, head on down to either Winnipeg location on Logan Avenue or Dovercourt Drive for a free battery test. And if you need one, the folks at Manitoba Battery will be more than happy to take care of it with the best prices in town and the best in customer service. Like Donnie says, stop wasting time and money at the big box stores when you can shop local, get the best price in town and the best customer service at your local Manitoba Battery. And if you can't make it down, give them a call or order online at manitobabattery.com. They deliver doorstep service to you anywhere inside the perimeter of Winnipeg from Manitoba Battery. And hey, also, just before we bring in Hammer, I got to thank everyone that bid on the package for the Aikens Lake trip, where I'll be hosting. I can't wait to meet the winner and have a great time out at Aikens Lake. But our friends at the HSC Foundation continue to work hard to, continue to increase the standard of category at the foundation, and the Fund a Need program continues. They're looking to raise $425,000, and every dollar will be matched, doubling the impact of each donation. The spine surgery and joint replacement are two of the longest surgical wait lists in Manitoba. The HSC, they're actively expanding capacity to meet that growing demand. And the 2026 Fund a Need campaign supports the next phase of that expansion. And with this investment, they'll be able to perform 200 additional spine surgeries per year, 400 additional joint replacements per year, and it's so much. So if you have the ability to support the HSC Foundation right now, those donations will be doubled. And of course, that Striker Q guidance system with spine guidance software for surgical navigation is the goal of it as well. All right, let's bring in the hammer. Geoff Hamilton from the Free Press joins us now. And Hammer, it was great to see you yesterday. We had a heck of a lot of fun watching that game, and then it was over. Did you follow through on your plan for the rest of the day, just to curl up in a ball and order skip the dishes and try and not think of what we just watched?
No, I feel like yesterday, on one hand, spent most of it in bed. I honestly didn't get out much. And then woke up a little bit, then went back to bed. My sleep had been off for a bit. And so I feel like this, at the same time was easing some of the pain of the gold medal loss to our neighbors and friends to the south. But a big part of it also seemed to be fixing my sleep pattern. So I woke up at the perfect time of 5:46 this morning, Huss, ready to go, ready to take on the world. And now I'm back in my rhythm. So it was a disappointing loss. Lick the wounds, come to reality. All the stages of sports grief, which, to be frank, I haven't really experienced a whole ton in my life, but certainly joined the masses with the disappointing loss yesterday.
I mean, I don't want to say it's mixed feelings, because we, of course, were all in. Everyone was all in on Team Canada. But there's credit where credit is due. And then there's a guy that, amongst Jet fans and whatnot, are pulling for 364 days a year in Connor Hellebuyck. What a moment for Helly, the game of his life. And, as disappointing as it is from the Canadian side, I can't help but feel great for him with what he's been through, with what he's done for this hockey team, with what he's done for this city, to get that sort of recognition on an international stage, even if it was unfortunately at our expense.
Well, I think going into this, Huss, I think a lot of people predicted a Canada-U.S. game, and to your point, I mean, Hellebuyck and the narrative following him, because you can only play the games that are in front of you, right? Hasn't had a lot of those big moments, right, on the biggest stage. He's won some playoff series, of course, made some incredible saves throughout. Obviously has had incredible seasons. He's a 3-time Vezina winner and a Hart Trophy winner to boot. So, the accolades are there, right? There's no denying, but I think there is something certainly that's been attached to his name, and was even asked about in the Jets room today about whether or not, like, this isn't, I don't want to say is enough. I think it was more worded in the question of, like, this, this must put maybe those conversations to an end, or at least to a rest for the foreseeable future here. And I think for Hellebuyck, it's not mixed emotions, right? Canadians wanted to see a victory, right? They didn't want to see, people here in Winnipeg did not want to see Hellebuyck in the winner's circle after all said and done, right? Is it a nice consolation prize? I'll leave that up to everybody else to answer that for themselves. But, it was disappointing, but it was an incredible game by Connor Hellebuyck. And, take out the fact that he's a Winnipeg Jet. Like, it was an incredible game. And in these tournaments, it can often go down, to one player, much like you see in the World Series in pitching, right? I mean, it's, everybody knew that even though Connor Hellebuyck hadn't gotten, the job done, a la Four Nations, losing in the final, everyone knew he was the best goalie going into the tournament. And I know there was conversations about his downplay with Winnipeg this year, about whether or not he should even be the starter. Well, that stuff was obviously put to rest super early in the tournament, and then the rest is history, and in this case, real history, right? This is the Americans knocking off the Canadians to win their first gold since the Miracle on Ice. This is a big accomplishment for the United States, even if it comes on the backs of major heartbreak for a country that's used to that feeling, right, of supremacy when it comes to men's hockey and women's hockey for that matter.
You mentioned the Miracle on Ice, and there's a lot of people that were talking about Miracle beforehand. And I mean, this was by no means a miracle. I mean, the U.S. is a hockey superpower, and it's the great rivalry right now in hockey between Canada and the United States. I mean, North America, is dominant right now and with all due respect to the Finns, who I think, Dennis Bernstein mentioned, if Barkov is playing, they're probably right there. The Swedes didn't have the tournament that they wanted to, and they're right there. It was really cool to see teams like Slovakia kind of get in, and the Swiss, perform the way that they did. But there is a USA-Canada, obviously that was the gold medal game. That was the gold medal game at the Four Nations. That was the gold medal game in 2010. And those are the spots that, is where we focus on right now. And, you inevitably gravitate to the top players on both teams. Hellebuyck stole the show yesterday. He was the reason why they won that game. Thoughts on what this does to two guys, the two horses on Team Canada? Connor McDavid moving forward, who now has been a bridesmaid, to quote Matthew Tkachuk, in both of the last two Stanley Cup finals and now in the Olympic gold medal game. And McKinnon, who does have a Stanley Cup ring, but is also a guy that, will rue that open net for the rest of his life. And, hasn't had the results in the last couple of years with his team, despite having an incredible, seemingly unfinished business season so far this year.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, obviously. And I mean, this is just one man's opinion. I don't know if it does too much, right? I mean, would it continue to put it in a different feeling had they won, right? Connor McDavid going, it's very difficult to win the Stanley Cup. Let's just get that out there right now. It'd be, I know it wouldn't be the difference necessarily to Connor McDavid because, you either have a ring or you don't have a ring, but there is something about getting to the finals of the Stanley Cup playoffs back-to-back years, right? Again, you always need, you knew it's unfair, fair, unfair, whatever. When it comes to describing the best players in the world, and certainly Connor McDavid has been in that breath, McKinnon is not far behind him, right? Nathan McKinnon has a Stanley Cup. And that is still missing for Connor McDavid. So, is it going to be one of those, I think there's still a lot of hockey to be played for Connor McDavid. It's not like it's not like his situation's like Sidney Crosby. And of course, Sidney already has those Stanley Cups, has that legacy cemented. But there's still time, I guess, is the question. So what does it do? I suppose you can run with that narrative about Connor McDavid always being the bridesmaid and never the brides. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of Americans who are going to be leaning into that. Because at the end of the day, all of a sudden now, Four Nations kind of doesn't seem that good anymore, right? Four Nations was kind of heading into this tournament. Yeah, heading into this tournament, it was kind of like Connor McDavid got the monkey off the back, right? He figured out the Four Nations. He scored the game-winning goal. I don't want to sit here, as Jeff Hamilton in my living room saying that he took a step back to just being kind of Connor McDavid, best player in the NHL. But again, when we do these comparisons, when we bring these names together and we compare, obviously a lot of it has to do with individual achievement. You can put Nathan McKinnon there as well. But a lot of it also has to do with team achievement, right? If you didn't lead your team to a Stanley Cup, you didn't lead them to an Olympic gold, that's not going to be viewed as well as other things. And this is the other thing, Huss. I mentioned my personal opinion. I think guys like Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon are looking at their peers, right? I don't need to tell Connor McDavid that he needs to get a Stanley Cup to be, kind of in that conversation with Sidney Crosby and Wayne Gretzky and all the other great players that have come, since then and before that. You just have to win, right? So I see this being, Connor McDavid, not saying he's the one that has to answer that question, but he's certainly the one, and Nathan McKinnon as well, who are continuing to write that story. So their story's far from over. And while it's unfortunate they didn't get to add that chapter of Olympic gold, and what a chapter that would have been, especially given the tournament, someone like Connor McDavid had, right? He was unbelievable throughout the tournament. Again, sometimes fairly or unfairly, really what matters is that piece of hardware at the end of the tournament's not what you did during.
Let's bring this one closer to home. I was mentioning this earlier on the show, but I'm interested in your thoughts on this. Here in Winnipeg, obviously they had the great heights of last year and the playoff disappointment. This year they came in with incredibly high hopes, and the season's been, a disaster. I mean, based on what the expectations were, and I think the talent on the team. But yesterday, I mean, listen, it's easy to kind of not pay much attention to Winnipeg unless they're really, really good. I mean, they're one of the smallest markets. They don't get the attention they do on that national level. Connor Hellebuyck becomes an American hockey legend yesterday, Olympic legend yesterday with his performance, putting an exclamation mark and removing any doubt on a Hart Trophy win last year and his Vezina trophies. I mean, he's going straight to the Hall of Fame. That's already done. How much does this ramp up the pressure and the spotlight on Kevin Cheveldayoff in the short term? Well, let's just call it the next 6 months, to move past this disappointing season and get this team back to making the most of having the best goaltender in the world.
Yeah, like the question becomes like, and you got to wonder where the Jets front office feels they're at, right? Like, what are you selling next year? Are you selling hope next year? Like, I mean, if you're selling hope next year, that's going to depend on some of the moves you make from, in the coming months.
This team should have hope every single time they play with 37 in the net.
Well, that's what I mean. So it's like, I don't think that's the sales pitch here, right? I don't think those guys are looking for answers. Like they were looking for answers when they put the, pen to paper and signed their extension, right? I mean, now to be fair, Haas, like the answers need to come from within too, right? It's not just like, what are you going to do for us next year to get us out of this, that being Kevin Cheveldayoff, to get us out of this hole that we've suddenly found ourselves in after being at the top of the mountain in the regular season the year before, right? Like, and I think depending on what their belief is, whether they're a few moves away, tinkering here or there, you could make the argument if you can replace some, regain some speed and fix some of the, the summer essentially that you had last summer, do it a bit differently. I don't think this team is far off, especially when you consider, having a player like Connor Hellebuyck between the pipes. I mean, to me, like this is, I mean, it's interesting, Huss, because like I've also been asked by a lot of people, what do you think, Connor Hellebuyck's trade value is right now? And you could certainly make the argument that it's never been higher, never will be higher, but that's certainly not like, to the point where I start asking, advisors and some scouts around they're thinking this is a, potential could get 3 first-round picks and a player prospect, right? Like that's the future here now, where those first-round picks lined up. Anyways, no one's trading Connor Hellebuyck, but it just goes to show how much of an appetite there will be for his services. And, essentially the need to build around him, right? That's been there's no secret here, Huss. That's been the case since Connor Hellebuyck really came onto the scene, but really started to show his stuff between the pipes, and certainly after his first Vezina. This is the guy you want to build around. This is, to your point, gives you a chance to win every night. I think as long as you have him between the pipes, you have to be thinking of retooling at the most. So, it will be interesting to see how much, to answer your question, how much pressure this puts on Kevin Cheveldayoff. Like, I think Kevin Cheveldayoff feels a ton of pressure just strictly from where he finds his team, particularly compared to the previous year. I don't know that a showing from his goaltender is necessarily going to add to that pressure, but certainly the hunger that Hellebuyck's going to come. Like, think about that, Huss, right? Like Hellebuyck coming from the hot tub to the cold pool, really coming from leading his country to a gold medal against their biggest rivals, to coming back to play for a team that is kind of selling hope of a potential, get into the playoffs, right? Still the whole talk about, St. Louis didn't do it that long ago, and there's another team who's done it, trying to set some precedent. It'll be interesting to see what his expectations are heading into the offseason, right? I mean, if things go the way they're trending, Huss, there's going to be some difficult conversations between the general manager and his players, how to fix this, right? And it'll be interesting to see what, Connor Hellebuyck's headspace is at. I mean, he's an ultimate team player. I don't see him, coming back from getting his Olympic gold and starting to call the shots or whatever. He's obviously wanting to deliver for Winnipeg, and that's the one thing that's essentially remaining for him. But yeah, it will be interesting. I think the focus right now, though, is mainly on game to game. As frustrating as that might be for fans as they watch this season kind of circle the drain, the approach is still very much game to game, with the plan, if you will, or certainly hope that you can do some damage and get yourself closer to the playoff picture. But yeah, pressure is going to be, I think, the letter P, and no more than pressure is going to be the letter of the summer here, Huss, because there's going to be a lot on Kevin Sheldayoff's plate, which is another P word. So I think, those are still those answers are still to be determined, and certainly the results are, there are going to be a lot of expectations as far as results to next year, over the summer, and what Kevin Sheldayoff can do. Yeah, listen, I'm right. And I mean, obviously we live in the market. We'll have these questions and we'll be talking about it. I just do think that when this season ends and we look back at, everything that happened, and the Olympics games are going to be a huge, huge part of this year in the NHL season. And then you look at, which teams overachieved, and then what the hell happened to these teams? The Jets might be at the top of that list. And I think those voices, or maybe questions, criticism, and pressure comes from far beyond this province and this perimeter, the perimeter of the city, that the way that it sort of has been in the past. I just, this next 2 weeks is going to be really interesting because there's only 5 games before the trade deadline. I mean, next week we're going to be talking about everything we're hearing from around the league, and you get to Friday and that big day. How many moves and how significant do you think things will be in the short term before we talk about probably the bigger pieces, if anything happens, which would be in the off season? Yeah, but doesn't it feel the trade? I mean, maybe Stanley, Logan Stanley's the big piece that everyone's talking about, right? But he's still, relatively speaking, one of the smaller pieces when you look at the depth chart. I think this trade deadline is going to be all about small moves, right? I don't, are you seeing, I don't see any of the that the Jets have now. I mean, it might be more of a shock if they were to get, say Jonathan Taves, right? To trade Jonathan Taves, no one would necessarily be surprised by that, given where they are in the standings and whatnot. In his production, wouldn't be viewed as a big move, right? He's not being traded to go play on some team's top 6, but it might be more surprising because, again, what we experienced with the Jonathan Taves experience this year, right from the beginning in training camp. Every other move, in my opinion, outside of, again, maybe Logan Stanley here, is still a relatively smaller move, right? They're either add-ons, and so I'm expecting anybody, if Kevin Sheldayoff's phone's ringing at the trade deadline and any interest in any of those UFAs, you have to think those moves are getting made. I just think from a basic numbers game, there's at least 2 or 3 trades probably to be made right there. But I'm not really expecting the Jets to be big players. I don't think they're going to be in the market for play. They might pick up a guy here or there, maybe with a playoff list team, right? Maybe a playoff team, who knows? But they're always interested in getting players with terms. So I don't think, if those options were to come up, and they certainly wouldn't be ignoring them. This is how this team builds. But yeah, the rest of it, I don't see much fireworks. I just don't see many teams interested in the Jets players outside of a couple. And the Jets not really being in that market to maybe buy players. So I'm not we talked about this last week, Huss, and previous weeks, there's just not much of a runway here, right? You mentioned, we there's been stretches of weeks where the Jets have played decent hockey and they've made up 1 or 2 points, right? So these 5 games are not going to be enough to convince anybody in the front office that they're right on the heels of a playoff spot. But at the same time, I think if you come back from, we come back from the Olympic break here, Huss, and the Jets lay an egg in these next 5 games or the first couple games, I think you have your answer, right? This is a team that's just, and I still think, the Jets are flirting with that. I don't think they're going to hold on to a Logan Stanley or a Luke Shen or a Tanner Pearson or whatever, another one of their UFAs, just to hold on to him and push.
No,
but
definitely not.
This is something that needs to be addressed for sure.
Yeah, listen, if they have takers for Nyquist, Pearson, whatever, they're gone, and anything is found money. Stanley, I think, will have plenty of interest. You'll want to maximize that value. I know someone said, how bad's your team if that's your big piece? Well, we're talking about trade deadline pieces. Hellebuyck and Scheifele and Morrissey and Connor, those guys aren't going anywhere at the deadline. So, it's more speaking about, who always gets moved, guys on expiring contracts. And listen, both the Stanley and the Taves pieces, I think it was Pagnotta that made this point, a month ago or so in the program. And it is a great point. Like, the biggest benefit for the Jets with those two guys as to potential return for them, and obviously Taves would have to be in on it. He's got a full no move, is the fact that their salaries are so low. Good teams can bring those guys in without having to, do a whole bunch of cap gymnastics to find their way in. Stanley's just over $1 million. Taves is at $2 million. You've played 3/4 of the year. These are not big
appealing
ads.
do you think Logan Stanley is to one of those teams that you're talking about? Do you think that there's a team out there that would the Colorado Avalanches of the world or whatever, the Dallas Stars of the world? I know that's, division. Feel free to go to a different conference or whatever. But do you put any of those, do you see that team looking at their third pairing and being like, man, we could really add Logan Stanley there?
Those two teams, no. But again, we're talking not just about the top 3 cup contenders. We're talking about every team that's in the playoffs. I think about a team like the Boston Bruins, that, had Chara all those years. Now, all of a sudden, Stanley's having sort of a breakout season by the numbers. And here's the other thing about Stan. He's 27. You're not talking about a guy that's just coming. I think there are a lot of teams that would love to get him into the mix with the hope that they could re-sign him afterwards.
Well, take the gamble of this is kind of when NHL defensemen come into their prime, right?
Yes.
So it's certainly the risk. The risk factor isn't as high if he was 30 or 31 or 32, obviously.
No. There is the potential. And listen, I know there's some fans that will, turn up their nose at this. And there's others that are saying, this is what I've been saying. That's why it's such an interesting conversation of people on both sides. There absolutely is a scenario that this is a late bloomer, one of these big guys that takes off and, his trajectory is more like the player we've seen this year than the one that's been here in the past. And again, it only takes one GM to think that and believe in it and make that happen. But I actually think of Stan as a possibility for some of the younger teams that are in the mix right now. The San Jose Sharks, the Anaheim Ducks, a team that could acquire Stanley, hope to sign him and keep him in the mix and have him part of that, kind of 2-3 pairing for the next 4 or 5 years. So to me, he's a really intriguing prospect. I think just the size alone and some of the physicality that sometimes is there and sometimes isn't is something that will be attractive. And I think that will probably surprise some of the naysayers on him as to what could come back. And then with Taves, Taves has all of these playoff intangibles that we talk about. And make no mistake about it, there isn't a coach in the league that would not love to have his expertise in the face-off circle for big, high-leverage moments in the playoffs. So I think that would add far more value to a player just at his age with his line in the stat page so far this year. What I am interested in, and this kind of talks about what I would like to see is some kind of significant change to the roster, is some of the guys that, are not just obvious, if someone wants them, take them because they have some term left. Dylan DeMello, Nino Niederreiter. I love Alex Iafallo, and I really hope he stays, but I would put Iafallo in that category as well as someone that I think would have some interest. And I do wonder whether they actually legitimately have talks about some of those guys that did sign here that don't have the same trade protection as the top guys. as to, maybe there is a fit. And obviously it makes it maybe a little bit more difficult because teams are taking on players that, you have to account for that next year. But I mean, these are guys that have had, good contributions in the past come playoff time. I mean, DeMello has played with Josh Morrissey all this time. I mean, I would really love to see the Jets improve the partner for Josh. I think that would go a long way to making the team better. And frankly,
where do you have Cole Perfetti in that mix, or were you describing Cole Perfetti without saying Cole Perfetti?
No,
with the guys they drafted, because it's that's the tough spot,
interesting.
Right?
Perfetti's is. Listen, I think that if they had if Kevin Cheveldayoff was made an offer with a younger player, potentially with a little bit more team control, that might be a different kind of player, I think they would absolutely listen to that. They won't be forced into doing that because, of course, he is an RFA this year. But again, then that's it. I mean, you need to basically make that decision on that player. So I think Perfetti's an interesting one. And now whether that's at the deadline or whether that's more in the offseason, I think everything's on the table for Cole. And I don't think I'd feel confident saying one way or the other, this is the way I likely see it happening. But I certainly think that it is an interesting possibility. Well, we'll buckle up and get ready for Jets Canucks on Wednesday night to start this push to the trade deadline and the rest of the season. But man, that Olympic Games was fun. Did you get into much of the rest of the Olympics, or was it mainly the hockey games and
I
catching
did.
a little bit of the highlights?
I did. I definitely did. I felt like, I didn't understand some, and I'm not going to say I saw a lot of it, but I didn't understand the criticism of CBC Gem app. I mean, I thought it was about as good as it gets when it comes to kind of coverage and being able to see different events.
You could see everything. I mean, it was
exactly so if it wasn't watching it live, it was, and social media is so, if you didn't catch any of the Olympics, you could just kind of scroll social media and have a pretty good idea of what occurred. But yeah, I love watching those competitions. I love seeing other athletes compete from other countries. And then there's always the excitement, right, of winning. And then you get all those moments that people capture and explain and provide context to. So I definitely took in the games. I thought it was an awesome games. I took in the opening and closing ceremonies. For the most part, I rewatched the closing ceremonies.
I couldn't watch nothing. Live. There was the second that goal went in.
Yeah, that was my closing ceremonies. The lights. Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, no. And I think I was telling you this before, and I don't say this as like bragging or whatever. Certainly not. But it was the first curling game that I've watched from the first rock thrown to the last rock thrown, and what a gold medal performance by Brad Jacobs and the rest of the crew. And
that match was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I've always been sort of a fan of curling, and I get into the Scotties and I get into the Brier, and I watch quite a bit of it. I think that was the best one I've ever seen. And Brier does start on Friday. So we'll have to get our boy Cullen on curling back on over the next couple days to kind of recap the performances of Homan and Jacobs at the Olympic Games and tee up a really interesting field that for the first time in forever isn't going to have Matt Dunstone or Reed Carruthers representing Manitoba. It's Braden Calvert this year. But anyways, dude, great to see you yesterday. It had the potential to be one of the greatest days of all time. It probably would have had me in much worse shape for today's show. So I guess that's a silver lining, but we didn't want silver linings. We wanted golden moments. Great stuff. I don't know. You got muted or something like that. I don't know what happened there, but I will look forward to chatting. I know Mike's away this week. It's because he's been on with us. So we'll look forward to hook up with the Hammer later on this week. Shout out to Geoff for jumping on with us today at Geoff K. Hamilton on X when you decide that you're ready to dip your toes back into the social media waters. Well, listen, with the end of that Olympic Games and the Olympic hockey tournament, I think it's only appropriate that we do a Chud's Power Sports Power Poll for the top players in the Olympic Games. Now, do want to mention to you out at Chud's up in Gimli. We're actually going to be there in a few weeks. We're going to do a show up there in and around the Jets Town Takeover in Gimli on March 19th. But last week, they just started the Polaris 2027 Snow Check program. for pre-ordering new snowmobile models for next year. If you pre-order, you get the best deal of the year on the new models, plus an extra 2-year warranty for a total of 3 years instead of the normal 1 year. $250 in free accessories, and the golden ticket, which will give you $1,000 off the 2028 snow check if you want to trade up the 2027. It runs now until March 13th. The header's running on the website. You see it right there at chudspowersports.com. So hit that up. Check out everything else they've got going out at chudspowersports.com. And don't forget to pop out and see Manitoba's ultimate power sports superstore for 80 years up in Gimli at the corner of Highway 8 and 231. All right, let's get to the power poll. Top performers of the Olympic Games men's hockey tournament. And no surprise, this list is dominated by Canadians and Americans. But I will give number 5 on this list to Juraj Slafkovsky, who I believe had another 3 or 4 goals, kicked the tournament off scoring, and with that big win for Finland. And of course, the Slovaks did make it to the bronze medal game, which I think was far beyond most people's expectations, considering how few NHLers they had. So Yuri Slafkovsky gets number 5. Jack Hughes, number 4. He gets the golden goal. That counts for a lot. Had a really, really strong tournament and was night and day compared to the guy that we saw in the Four Nations last year, who was hit repeatedly by Canada and, frankly, was a non-factor in the gold medal game last year. Jack Hughes is going to get a lot of love for the rest of his life for the game-winning goal, the golden goal yesterday. He is number 4. Number 3 is Macklin Celebrini, the 19-year-old phenom for Canada. Led the tournament in goals. I can't even be happy with that 30-1 ticket we cashed on Celebrini to have the most goals in the tournament, despite the great pick that it was, because they didn't end up winning the gold medal. But my God, what a future this young man has. He was riding with Connor McDavid, and he was absolutely brilliant. Could have scored a couple yesterday, but didn't. He gets his silver medal in his first time, and mark my words, Macklin Celebrini will win an Olympic gold medal at some point in the future. Number 2 is Connor McDavid. I think this award was voted on after the first period of the game. And certainly if you look at what happened in like the preliminary round, he was phenomenal. Kept off the scoreboard in the most important game, though, despite, setting an all-time record for points in an Olympic Games. McDavid was right there, but to me, McDavid is number 2. And I don't need to tell any of you who number 1 is. It's Connor Hellebuyck. He is the reason right now that the United States are gold medalists. One of the greatest goaltending performances we've ever seen on the biggest stage against arguably the best team that's ever assembled. Helly, absolutely deserving of the number 1 spot on the Chuds Power Sports Power Poll for the top players at the Olympics. Brought to you by the gang over at Chuds. Again, check them out online at chudspowersports.com. Amazing morning at Boston Pizza's up until about 10:15 or 10:30 yesterday. The atmosphere around the city was incredible. Had friends all over the place at BP's and different bars. And we'll be ready for some great nights watching the Jets for the rest of the season. And, of course, the playoffs coming up right now. No better place to get together with your gang for the big game than at your local BP, enjoying ice-cold schooners, world-famous BP wings, and gourmet pizzas as well. Staying at home, want to eat yourself out of the depression, you can order online today and get it for home delivery at bostonpizza.com. And I will say it was a great couple of weeks for Royal Sports. Amazing seeing so many people that had picked up Canada jerseys and Canada gear at Royal, your number 1 sports superstore in town. Still plenty of Canada gear, I'm sure, there, and that might come in handy for the World Cup coming up. Of course, still got great stuff. If you did still want to snag a Celebrini or something like that, they do have some stock remaining. And otherwise, we get ready to move on to the Stanley Cup playoffs. Obviously, if you're pulling, if the Jets aren't there, you're pulling for another team or have a fan in your family, they've got all 32 teams covered. They're going to have Super Bowl champion Seahawks gear coming in. And, of course, Blue Jays season is here. We're going to start talking some baseball on the show. Get ready for Blue Jays season down at Royal Sports as well. And, of course, the snowboard section's still banging right now as many people make plans for spring break. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Give them a follow on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. Now, we're going to welcome in Jesse Capagado from CBC to sort of step away from the hockey for a minute and just look back at Team Canada's performance in the Olympic Games. Before we do that, though, let's give a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, let's do a full Olympic wrap and put Milano Cortina to bed with Jesse Campigotto from CBC. Jesse, thanks so much for doing this. It's great to have you back on Winnipeg Sports Talk. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. And great to be back.
Despite the way things ended for Canada yesterday, I'll be honest. I mean, I'm still sort of in a daze. I can't believe that. I can't believe many things about the hockey game. We've talked about it quite a bit. But I will say this, that up until a Sunday morning, like the end of Saturday, I was wishing we had another 2 weeks of this. I mean, it really was a fun, amazing Olympic Games. Listen, from a Canadian perspective, there were some highs and some lows, but just overall thoughts of the games. It seemed like it went really well and was a huge success.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I have sort of mixed emotions about it. There were a lot of great moments along the way for sure. And I think there's a lot of great memories to take from it. But obviously, the ending did not go the way we wanted to say the least. We can get into that too. But it was sort of like a mixed bag for Canada. I mean, obviously, losing those 2 gold medal hockey games in overtime puts a damper on things. And then the overall medal count, to be honest, was not great. Canada ended up with 21 medals, which might sound like a lot, but we've become accustomed to being more in that 25 to 30 range over the last few Winter Olympics. So 21 is actually our fewest medals since 2002, Salt Lake City. And that's kind of an important date because right after that is when the Own the Podium era started. So that's the program that Canada put together with the goal of topping the medal standings in Vancouver in 2010, which ended up working out great. We got 14 golds there, finished first. But that program really started paying dividends starting in 2006. So 2002 was kind of the last year before that. So this is our worst Olympics in terms of total medals of that Own the Podium era. So kind of mixed emotions, like I said.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think the average Canadian, that tunes in, you're cheering for the athletes. Most of these winter sports, like, speed skating and freestyle skiing, those are sort of things that people see every 4 years. The hockey is different. And listen, this one was even more important because it had been so long since we'd had the true best on best. And obviously the women's rivalry with the United States is incredible. And that was a little different because they were such a big underdog for the first time in so long in this event and then lost in the fashion that they did. So, I mean, to me, the hockey is almost a category of its own. We could have had, freaking 30 gold medals going into Sunday and people would still be feeling the way they are today because of what happened in the hockey game. But, I mean, let's focus first on the good. The gold medalist, listen, the curling, I may as well start there with the Jacobs rink and the Holman rink, in that Holman had a terrible Olympic record before and is arguably the greatest of all time ever to do it, and then got off the mat at 1 and 3, got back into it, obviously lost a heartbreaker in the semifinal, but got a medal. And then the controversy around Mark Kennedy and the Jacobs team, I think was actually incredible for the sport of curling. And then they ended up finishing the job with the gold medal against the number one team in the world. So overall in the curling, I think it has to be a huge positive for Curling Canada.
Yeah, I thought the curling went really well. Actually, going in, if you'd have told me we got a gold and a bronze, I would have assumed it was flipped. I would have thought Homan got the gold and Jacobs a bronze. So that was totally fine. Jacobs' win was fantastic. So to beat Great Britain in the final there, they've won 2 of the last 3 world titles. They represent Scotland in the World Championships, but those countries kind of come together for the Olympics as Britain. So if anyone's confused by that, that's the reason. So that was a huge win, and that was a really entertaining game. Like, the shot making was incredible. Strategically, it was really fun to follow. Even as a casual curling fan, you could just sense like the guys thinking and playing on just a higher level. So that was incredible. And then Homan, like if you just look at the result, a bronze going in as the back-to-back world champ, not the best end result. But when you look at it from the standpoint of she started 1-3 and then won 5 de facto elimination games just to get into the playoffs, under all that pressure, because she'd missed the playoffs in the previous 2 Olympics. If she would have missed the playoffs for a 3rd straight, I mean, let's be honest, that would have tainted her legacy for sure. It would be one of the first things people think about, no matter how many world titles, no matter how many Scotties she won. So to come through under pressure and get to the playoffs, and then to bounce back from that semifinal loss to Sweden, who ended up winning the gold, by the way, to pick up the bronze and to beat the U.S. in the bronze game, which is always extra nice. I thought that was really nice for her. And that was one of my favorite moments. You could just see the strain and the stress that she was under. It was written all over her face the whole time, even when she was winning. I felt really bad for her. I was hoping she could have a more enjoyable Olympics, but for her to put all those emotions aside, come back in that bronze game and win and go home with a medal, I think was fantastic.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I thought that she, her teammates didn't help her out enough to win a gold medal. I mean, every time she was getting the rock, they were on defense. They were trying to find a way to get points. I mean, we focus so much on the skips, and the teams are named after the skips, and there's a big reason for that. But and both of those games, I mean, at the highest level, it shows how important every single shot is because of how great the curlers were. But obviously, the controversy on the men's side got a little people talking about it. And man, what can you say about Brad Jacobs? I mean, this is a guy that now has 2 gold medals, in his career. And to be honest, with the field that they were going up against, and certainly everything else that was happening around the team, maybe even a more important, more impressive performance than his original gold.
Yeah, for sure. So he won gold in 2014 with 3 different teammates. So that is really him winning those 2 golds, obviously having a lot of help from his teammates at both Olympics. But that controversy, it was wild. I mean, it was all anyone was talking about. Casual fans, serious curling fans, anyone watching the Olympics. That was like the number one story for a couple of days. It seemed to go away pretty fast, which was good, and we could just focus back on the curling. But that's a kind of thing that can really derail you, especially in a sport like that, where there's just so much pressure on every shot, so much time to think about things. Everything's so like finely calibrated. So any kind of outside distraction like that, or questioning like, oh, am I releasing the handle correctly? Am I going to get called for this? Is this going to continue being a story? I thought that was huge. So for them to overcome that, for Homan to put aside her demons, her early struggles to do that, I can't say enough about the 4-player curling teams. The mixed team, not so much, but the 4-player teams for sure were just terrific.
Let's focus in on some of the other victories for Canada overall. I mean, to me, it stands out, Mikhail Kingsbury getting that gold medal with his incredible career certainly is right up there. And then, I mean, the Quebec women and the medal load that they brought on the ice in speed skating, to me was one of the great stories of Canadian success.
Yeah, it was awesome. Short and long track. So short track, we had Courtney Sorrow, the Beast from the East, as they call her. So she's from Moncton. She's one of those rare short trackers that is not from Quebec, but all the other women are for sure. That province, I'm not sure what they're doing there exactly, but they just continue to turn out world-class short trackers every single Olympics, time after time. The pipeline's incredible. So she won 4 medals. So she was our top medal winner. No gold, but 2 silver, 2 bronze. The Canadian record for a single winter games is 5, just to put that in perspective. So she was only 1 away from that. And then in long track, the 3 ladies in the women's team pursuit, they call themselves the Madams, which I thought was really cute. 2 of them are 35. One of them is 30. So Val Maltese is 35, and Ivani Blondin's 35. Isabel Weidman is 30. They went back to back in the team pursuit. That was a great moment. And then Blondin got a silver on the last Saturday in the mass start, which is that chaotic event where all the skaters are on the ice at the same time. And then Maltese got a couple of bronze. She got her very first medal to kick things off. And then she got a really surprising one in the 1500. She was not considered a medal contender at all. So for her to come out and get that bronze in the very last individual Olympic skate of her career, just to come out of nowhere was that was one of my favorite moments for sure.
CBC's Jesse Campigotto breaking down the aftermath of Team Canada at the Olympic Games out in Italy. You mentioned this was, by most measures, our least successful in the last 20 years. Where were the key disappointments? I mean, were there some teams that we had a lot more expected of, or was this sort of the way the Canadian Olympic team sort of expected that they'd be challenged?
Yeah, I thought we'd be higher, to be honest, in terms of total medals and gold. When I came on before the Olympics, we had a data company kind of do some projections for us, and they were fairly high. They were in the high 20s for total medals, and I think 10 gold, which I think it sounded a bit high to me, but I thought it was like right within range. So I was, I didn't agree necessarily with all the individual predictions, but as a whole, I thought they were pretty solid. So I do think it was disappointing in terms of the medal count. You hate to point fingers at any one person, but I have to say, for me, the biggest disappointment was Will Danjanu in short track. I came on here on my preview appearance, and I was, people have been kind of asking me, who's the Summer McIntosh of this Olympics? Who should I be looking out for? And I said, well, there's not really a Summer. Like, we don't have anyone of that caliber in the Winter Olympics who's as good as her. But Will Danjanu in short track was as close as it gets. So he dominated the World Tour over the last 2 seasons, won like more than half of his races, was consistently on the podium in his races, was a legitimate threat to win 5 medals in 5 events. Now, that's really, really tough to pull off. So for him to actually do 5 would have been incredible. But I expected, 3-4 medals, maybe a gold or 2. And he came in with 0 individual medals, missed a podium in all 3 of his solo races. The relay team, which was favored to win gold that he was on, the men's relay, they missed the podium. His only medal was in the mixed relay right at the beginning of the games, a silver. So only 1 medal for him in 5 events, when a lot of people were expecting him to make a run at 5 and maybe get multiple golds and maybe be our biggest star of the whole Olympics. It was a letdown, to be honest.
Jesse, we heard, I guess the Canadian Olympic Committee had a press conference yesterday, finishing up in and around the closing ceremonies, celebrating, the wins. But there also seemed to be a message that they need to be able to take their training resources up another level if we want to avoid, I guess, the trend that we're seeing right now, which is not a positive one based on the results in Milan.
Yeah, and it is a bit of a trend. So at the last Winter Olympics in Beijing 4 years ago, the medal count was still very high. It was still, I'm not going to get the number exact, but it was something like 27 medals. It was in that 25 to 30 range that we expected. Now, the golds there were really low, though. We only had 4 gold medals there. Just to put it into perspective, that was 4 golds. We had 5 golds this time. That's 9 total. At the last 3 Winter Olympics before that, we had at least 10 gold medals at each of those. So things are trending, I would say, in the wrong direction, Winter Olympic wise. And you know what? They probably do need more funding. You saw what happened with Italy at these Olympics. So they kind of did a own the podium type move with hosting the games and really putting a lot of resources, a lot of efforts into doing really well. And you see how much that pays off. They won, I think, 30 medals, 10 golds. Those were both easily records for them for the Winter Olympics. They finished number 3 in the standings. So you really do see when you do get the right amount of funding and all that, it does really pay off. So I definitely see where they're coming from there. I will say this, though. We've really become, I'm not going to say a summer Olympic country, but we've really gone up in strength on the summer side. So we're really a country for all seasons now when it comes to the Olympics. And I think that's fantastic. Now, maybe that's come a little bit at the expense of our Winter Olympic success because, you know, there are trade-offs. There's only so much money to go around. You do have to make decisions at some point. So I think as a whole, if we take winter and summer, Canada as an Olympic country is stronger than ever. But yes, I agree. It would be nice to see more funding, maybe more support go towards the winter side, just to make sure we don't slip anymore and we still really remain strong there. Because I know a lot as a Canadian, you know, growing up, the Winter Olympics were always big, and we want to remain strong there because we do think of ourselves as a winter country. That is a big part of our identity. So we want to stay strong there too.
Jesse, let's finish on a positive note. What was your favorite Canadian story from this Olympic Games?
Oh, there was a lot of good ones. I'm going to go back to the Madams. I just love them. Maybe as an older guy myself, you know, about a decade older than them, but I just love when older athletes, you're just like, they've still got it. You know, I love when they can just do, especially in your last Olympics, to come out. So for them to repeat as champions in the team pursuit, I thought was awesome. I really loved Maltese winning the 2 medals. I loved Blondin getting the silver there. I thought that was really great. So yeah, there were a lot of good moments, and that's the thing. I don't want to sound too negative and just focus on that medal count. I don't think it was a bad Olympics by any stretch, because there were a lot of great moments along the way. And, you know, while acknowledging the count wasn't there where we wanted it to be, I do want to remember the speed skaters. The women's short trackers were great. The curling was great. Mikhail Kingsbury was great. All that stuff we've mentioned. You know, the hockey was a bit of a letdown, but to be honest, watching that game yesterday, the excitement of it, even though we lost at the end, that was one of my favorite moments. I mean, it was such a great ride. It was such a great game. It was a roller coaster of emotions. It was like hockey at highest level it's possibly ever been played. So even sometimes, you know, there's a silver lining, so to speak, even when you don't get the goal. So there were a lot of great moments, and I'm going to try to kind of take those with me as we go forward.
Jesse, you know, gold medal performances by so many members of the CBC team that brought us all the action. Tell me you and your colleagues have a few days off coming up.
For sure. Yeah, everyone works so hard, and I'm just really proud to be part of the team and bring these games to Canada every couple of years, because everyone just at CBC works so hard and does such a great job. So I hope everyone enjoyed it, because I know I really did.
Well, you guys certainly earned that as well. Hey, thank you so much for jumping on. Let's do this again soon, and look ahead to some of the more great sports stories outside of, you know, the pros, who obviously did have a big part, but, you know, so many of these great Canadian athletic stories that we hope will continue into the next summer games, and maybe a big turnaround and a much better performance when we get to 2030 in France for the next Winter Olympics. Thanks so much for doing this as always.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Always a blast. So thank you.
All right, thanks to Jesse for jumping on. And speaking of thanks to everyone that bid on the Aikens Lake trip for the HSC Gala in support of the Health Sciences Center Foundation. Really looking forward to accompanying our winners out for 3 amazing days and nights out at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. Folks, they're over 75% booked for this summer. So if you're thinking about a world-class fly-in fishing trip, maybe a couples trip with your partner, maybe a little corporate retreat for a few days with some fellows at work or customers, no better place to do it than Aikens. Go to aikenslake.com to find out more information on the upcoming fishing season. And for younger people, if you're in school, like in university, looking for a summer gig, or somebody that has some, maybe post-high school aged kids that are into fishing and would love to live in paradise for the summer, they're still working on filling out the Aikens team to work out at the lodge for the summer. You can find out for more information or send an email out by going out to aikenslake.com and hitting up our guy Paterson. Cannot wait for the snow to melt, the ice to leave, get out fishing, and get some nice weather around here. We still got a bit of a wait, though. Only 1 week left in February, though, and then we'll be able to see the finish line. Let's get to it. Now, a couple things for the Jets I want to get to before we do Coolbet lines. First and foremost, we've all got questions as to the injury situation, particularly with Josh Morrissey. We'll hear from Scott Arniel in just a minute, but this is Drager from First Up today talking about Josh Morrissey's situation and about Connor Hellebuyck.
I haven't poured through each individual club's travel schedule here, but I was looking at Winnipeg just because of Connor Hellebuyck's status and, the fact that he was incredible in that gold medal game. And, I mean, as quick as those players get back to Winnipeg, they're essentially jumping on an airplane and heading west again. So that's one example. By the way, Josh Morrissey is going to miss, a good chunk of time for the Winnipeg Jets. May not be a big deal, because of where the Jets are positioned in the West, but that's what I'm told. And Jets doctors are very eager to get a look at Josh Morrissey. Obviously, the injury that he sustained was worse than what was expected or feared because he didn't play. So he's going to miss a chunk of time.
All right, so there's Drags. No surprise. I mean, if Josh Morrissey couldn't go in the semi or the Olympic gold medal game, I wouldn't expect him in the Jet lineup anytime soon. Now, Scott Arniel did speak today. Remo, let's get to 9. This is what Arnie had to say on the injury update on Josh.
He will not be available for Vancouver. We'll kind of give you a heads up from there. We're just kind of discussing. They're all flying in. Not flying in. They're all, because of the weather, I think all the NHL guys are going to Miami. So from that point forward, we got Josh, with our doctors making sure here, for sure he won't be in Vancouver. We'll see where we're going from there. The White House thing, we're just still waiting on last information on, KC and Helly on that one. That sounds like it's a go tomorrow night. We're just still getting particulars on that. That has a lot to do with the league. There's obviously a lot of players involved. Where else am I at? P is a lot closer. Obviously, he's real close. Obviously, Fleur, we're probably still a couple of days away. Maybe we'll see. Maybe on the the Anaheim San Jose part of the trip. Hey, everybody.
All right, there's Scott Arniel going down the injury list. But Josh won't play. I would be shocked if he plays at any point on this road trip. And maybe beyond that, as we said earlier, certainly no need to rush him back right now. And I think you can pretty much count on Eric Comrie getting the start, probably with DiVincentis backing up, who was called up today on Monday. Speaking of which, tough weekend for the Moose at home, dropping a couple to Iowa. We'll focus in more on the Moose a little bit later on. But Scott Arniel did have some other comments. Obviously, he was asked about the brilliant performance of his goaltender in yesterday's gold medal game. Here's Arnie on what Helly had last night.
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing I was hoping for, that he was going to be at his best, and sort of let the chips fall where they may. And I think that you heard all the Canadian guys talk about that was one of the best games they played, and their goaltender was the difference, and he really was. When he made that stick save, I'm like, okay, he's getting dialed in. When he made that back toe pad save when he came across on another one. We've seen it. Everybody in Winnipeg, Manitoba has seen this. When he gets on like that, he almost gains more confidence as the game goes. And he was a wall, and you knew that When McKinnon misses that open net, that's probably the ones that that are going to get in the net. But he was outstanding and well deserving of that gold medal.
So there's Scott Arneal. Here's a little bit more from Arnie. He was just asked, being a proud Canadian, if he felt conflicted at all watching the game yesterday.
No, I'm cheering for Canada. I'll admit that. At the end of the day, I've had that jersey on 3 times, and at the end of the day, for me, I just wanted him to have a great game, and I was really hoping KC could get in and him have a great game, and Josh be in there and have a great game, and come down to that kind of game, 2-1, 1-0, those type of things, and it was that. It was everything. Canada had all kinds of chances. They had all kinds of chances to tie it up or to win the thing, actually to win it. When it came down to, one mistake and it was over. But, it just, you're watching it. And honestly, I came out of my chair a few times both ways. With a couple of Bennington saves and, then obviously a couple of Helly saves. So it was, like I said, it was fun to watch. It was just to sit back as a fan and, to just watch these elite players do what they do best. It was pretty exciting.
One more from Arnie about Helly. He was asked as to when we'll see Helly back in the net for the Jets.
Well, the White House thing kind of threw a little bit of wrinkle into it, but the plan is for Anaheim. Yeah, okay. The Com's known all along. Helly's known about Vancouver. Okay. But we'll see, hopefully. The hard part is it's a coast-to-coast travel here. So, it's going from Miami to Washington back out to Anaheim. So, and family, all that scenario. So we haven't really officially, Chevy and I talked this morning, we're going to talk this afternoon and find out the particulars, especially with the league.
You talked last time Kyle wanted to play coming out of Four Nations. Do you expect him Wednesday?
I haven't, 100. Again, same thing here. They all have family with them too, so got to see how that's going to play itself out. Like I said, they maybe come home, change their underwear, or do whatever they have to do, and to get themselves back out to the West Coast. So this all has to do with travel right now. So.
2.
All right, so some travel snafus in. Apparently, the Americans are going to be at the White House tomorrow after accepting their invite yesterday, and tough day to do it because you're going to have to listen to the entire State of the Union address. It's not just popping in for. What did he serve that time? Alabama and Miami. Was it Big Macs and Chick-fil-A?
Yeah,
I have a feeling the guys might get a different spread. We'll see, but that's going to mean Eric Comrie starts for the Jets on Wednesday. There will be no Josh Morrissey. There will be no Connor Hellebuyck, and in all likelihood, there won't be any Kyle Connor as well. For that game on Wednesday against the Vancouver Canucks. We'll have much more on that. Connor will actually join me from Vancouver tomorrow with the latest on the Jets, and we'll have much more coming up on the program, getting closer to the drop of the puck to resume the season on Wednesday night. And, of course, next week it is trade deadline week, trade deadline Friday. We'll do the expanded show as we always do on trade deadline day. So lots coming up. Reem, lost in all of this yesterday. I couldn't even really be happy with one of the best Coolbet bets that we've made on this program in a long, long time. The Macklin Celebrini 30-1 wager for him to lead the Olympics in goal scoring came through. The 7-1 future on him to lead Canada in goals came through. And not even that could put a smile on my face after yesterday's game.
Yeah, that's up there. There's been some big long shot ones, like Hellebuyck for MVP at the start of last season. So I'll give you a pat on the back there for labeling Macklin Celebrini as a tournament leading goal scorer. Unfortunately, I'm sure would you trade your winnings from that bet for
yes,
the win yesterday?
Yeah, because I would have had a nice additional win.
You were on that as well. You were on the win as well.
Medal game. To me, that felt like the lock. The long shot was Macklin Celebrini to score more goals than anybody at the Olympics. But I will take that. Bottom line is the account's in real good shape. And, this is a great time just to quickly look at the NHL futures. They've expanded everything. There's point totals for all the teams. But if we head over to our friends at Coolbet, and by the way, congrats again to Eric Chorlifson, who won the tickets. He's going to be in the front row right behind the Jet bench at the Avalanche game on the 14th of March. Or is that the 16th of March? Whatever the Saturday game is. Courtesy of Coolbet. He won those during our live stream during the semifinal. And congrats to Russ Lowen, who won the Coolbet prize pack and a $250 bet credit over at Coolbet. Good luck with those. Russ and all of you might want to take a look at these odds. Avalanche. Maybe this is the Nathan McKinnon's going to be on a mission even more now after what happened yesterday. Avalanche plus 220 to win the cup. Too low to bet, in my opinion, but they are the favorite. Lightning 5-1, Canes 8-1, Vegas 9-1, Edmonton 10-1, and then a gap. And this makes no sense to me. You would have to be insane to bet the Panthers to win the cup right now because they're not making the playoffs. But the Panthers are next at 19-1, tied with the Wild. Dallas at 2-1. The East is so wide open. You get those teams, and then it's all teams in the West. Like LA is 27-1. The Caps are 35-1. Buffalo has now gone down to 40-1, along with the Utah Mammoth. The Habs are 43. Ottawa's 50-1. They're not making the playoffs. And the Red Wings, no one believes in the Red Wings or the Penguins. They're 50-1. The Leafs at 65. Blue Jackets at 70. The Islanders, who are in a playoff spot right now, are 75-1. The Ducks are 75-1. And then you've got the Jets at 150-1. The Bruins are 150-1. And they're in a playoff spot right now. Very, very strange. But those are all the cup odds. You've got Western Conference, Eastern Conference. Helly's not in the list for the Vezina, and this won't be his year in the Vezina. He'll trade that for the Olympic gold medal, I'm sure. Sorokin from the Islanders is the leader at -130, and Vasilevsky's +130. What else do we have here? We've got the Norris Trophy. It's a pick'em right now between Zach Werenski and Cale Makar, -110 on each side. Quinn Hughes, 25-1. Well, I know I was just patting myself on the back for the Celebrini goal pick. The other one that I will do in advance now, Matthew Schaefer, 17-1 preseason. He's now -1,000 to win the Calder Trophy. So that one looks like it's as good as done. Nate Dogg, leader for the Hart Trophy, -215. Celebrini next at +350. Celebrini, if the Sharks make the playoffs, Celebrini is live for that award. Kucherov +550, McDavid 8-1. And then total points for the rest of the season, like the finishing points. The Jets total is 81.5, and it is even money on over. So if they can get back to 500, that'll cash the over at even money. Under 81.5 is -133. And as far as they've also got to make the playoffs numbers for everybody. The Jets are 10-1 to make the playoffs, -33 to miss. The Panthers +205 to make the playoffs, -286 to miss. Sharks +225 to make, -323 to miss. Leafs 3-1 to make, -455 to miss. And the Blue Jackets, our guy Bones, -112 to make the playoffs, -118 to miss. And Buffalo's looking good. Buffalo's -333 to make, +230 to miss. Same odds as the Detroit Red Wings, yet they have a much shorter cup number. Lots going on in the NHL section right now. We're going to have to dive into this on coming up this week with John Cullen. But the Brier futures are up right now. I'm trying to remember who the Manitoba Dunstone is +205. Manitoba Calvert 26-1. Brad Gushu, I guess this is Gushu's last Brier.
Yeah.
He's +320. McEwen +675. And of course, the Jacobs Rink, Canada, +105. those dudes are going to be partying all week, and this starts on Friday. This might be a good time to get some value on maybe Matty Dunstone or one of the other guys. We'll talk some curling coming up. We'll recap the Olympics and get ready for the Brier this week, hopefully with our guy John Cullen. But it's all cooking over at Coolbet. If you haven't played a Coolbet before, use the promo code WST for a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. And, they will double that for you, and you can play along with us. And, of course, we will get a bit of a schedule. Now that we're done the Olympics and getting back to normal with the rest of the hockey season into the playoffs, we'll have to plan a couple more poker nights. Of course, you can play that over on Coolbet as well. But huge thanks to Pat and Jake. See if we can get Patty on tomorrow, tee up the Cognizant Classic. Jacob Bridgman winning by a stroke at Riv yesterday in the Genesis. Nice win for anyone that was back in Bridgman. I was not. We saw him kind of fade the week before at Pebble Beach, but it was good enough to win. Rory McIlroy right there, but Jacob Bridgman gets, I believe that's his first win on tour. He and Ben Griffin pulled out of the Cognizant right now. So it is a wide open field for the Cognizant. We'll talk about that coming up on Tuesday and Wednesday in our Cool Bet segment. Remo, not the most fun show we've done, kind of with a black cloud above it. But again, congratulations to Connor Hellebuyck and Team USA on the gold medal. The Olympics are over. What are we going to watch tonight? I think I may have to get myself back into the WWE. I mean, Raw's always there for you on Monday night.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were going to keep going. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe catch up on some shows, flip on a movie. I did fold my laundry last night, so I got that done. So it was sitting in the basket for the entire Olympics, so.
Jeez, you reminded me. I got a basket.
Yeah.
That needs to be tended to.
So I don't know. Maybe I'll catch up on some shows tonight, see what I can do for this Winnipeg Sports Talk. If any social media posts or YouTube, stay tuned to that. We got a ton of views on Facebook, actually. I made these like graphics like promoting the Canada games. Some of them got like 150,000 views. So our Facebook, we're still on there.
Facebook's popping, eh?
Facebook has been popping for us. It's been fun.
I don't spend a lot of time on the Facebook streets, but
I'm on there.
That's good to hear. And like YouTube was insane for us. I mean, I still cannot believe how many people came in for the live stream on Friday morning with us to watch the game.
It was awesome.
35,000 views. And I think yesterday's show that like right after the game, Sunday Live with Connor and Liz, great job by them in very difficult circumstances. 11,000 on there. That's going to do it for us, folks. We'll put a brave face on and move forward. Jets head out to Vancouver tomorrow. We'll be all over that. Remo's actually going to be gone tomorrow. I'll hold it down, and then we'll get the guys back together on Wednesday with Connor with the game report from Vancouver, where he's going to be for the next few days. That is going to do it for us. Thanks to Dennis Bernstein, Geoff Hamilton, Jesse from CBC, and all of you for making Winnipeg Sports Talk a part of your day. Huge thanks to all of our sponsors. As always, have a great night. Reintroduce yourselves to everything non-Olympics that's been dominating you for the last 2 weeks. And chin up, Canada. We'll be back. We'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. 1 o'clock right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Have a great one, everyone.
Oh, my God. Oh! Shut it down. Let's go home.
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.